What's going on, everybody? Ronan here, and welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be a little bit different than what I normally put out, as this is primarily a what if YouTube channel. But I figured since how I had a lot of questions in the comment section about certain things, that I would update you guys here directly, so that way anybody who's truly curious can get an answer to their questions, and some that they may not have even thought of, in one place. Before we get into any questions and answering stuff like that, there's a couple other things that I want to talk about, and those might give you guys some insight on some things that your question may pertain to and some angles that you may have thought of. So I'm going to have this video divided into different topics to make sure that I can try and cover everything as in depth and in detail as possible, but I don't want to keep it running any longer than it has to. So we're going to go ahead and get into the subjects that I have planned for today. So the first thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was the performance of the channel and where it's been, not really just recently, but in the last year in total. So this year I kind of decided to change things up a little bit with how I was doing things. I took a little bit of time off early in the year so that way I can kind of get ready going into the springtime, so that way everybody would get some new content and everything. But there was a problem that quickly arose on the channel when I realized that it wasn't drawing the people like it used to. I experienced a burst of growth in the first 2 years of the channel that I thought was kind of unnatural, but I was extremely happy to have. And within 2 years, I had hit 10,000 subscribers. Now here we are in October of the third year, and I've barely hit half of the goal that I normally set for myself, which is on average 5,000 a year. I'm currently sitting at just over 11,500, which is kind of sad when you take into consideration the first 2 years of growth that I experienced. And it's forced me to really reconsider a lot of things that I have going on the channel, and it's forced me to take a look at the approach that I've been taking to things as of late. There's a couple of things that I want to go over with you guys as far as this subject's concerned, because from our point of view, the content creators, these are the things that are concerning when you're looking at your channel as far as growth is concerned. And you always want to be able to find a new audience. The problem is when you're having trouble finding a new audience, the channel kind of stagnates, and that's when you run into the question of, do I really want to continue this or not? Well, if you'll take a look right here, you're going to notice a couple of things that are going to pop up. So the first thing is I want to talk about a couple of the numbers that my channel experienced for the month of September. I'm going to use this because it's the most recent data that I have to show you guys a full 30-day mark of what my channel has been experiencing. In the month of September, I only had 5.7k viewers returning to the channel. And if you think about that number and what I'm currently at, that's just over half of what my current subscriber base is for the channel, which that's the first thing that's an alarm for me. And if you look at the stat bar right here, you're going to notice that that's even down from August. And to me, that's a bit more of a concerning factor, because there's something that happened in the month of August that didn't happen in September, which I got a false spike in the month of August. So the month of September is what you would really consider to be my true numbers overall. When you think about where your subscriber count, it's a little bit disheartening to think about that you're barely getting half of the people that are subscribed to you to actually watch the content you're putting out. So it makes you have to start to question the content you're putting out and if it's what's right, and you have to start to change things around. Now let's take a look at the actual subscriber growth of the channel. It isn't that impressive, unfortunately, for the month of September. I only had 68 subscribers, and when you look at that compared to what I got in August, which again was an anomaly that happened in August, the 68 new people that currently subscribed in the month of September are about average of what I was getting. Now, if you compare that to the numbers from 2-3 years ago when I first started the channel, that is a huge drop, because I was averaging 300 people a month. So you can see where a lot of my concern has been coming from when it comes to the actual sustainability of the channel. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's dive a little bit deeper into some of the numbers of the actual channel, which from your point of view, you guys may never actually see these things because you don't have a monetized channel. So you may not be able to understand where we're coming from when we're creating content. But let's take a little bit of a deeper dive so that way you guys can understand exactly the severity of the situation. Now, if you guys look on screen, you're going to see my channel's overall watch time hours, subscribers, and views for the month of September. Now, while these numbers may seem impressive to some of you that may have channels that don't really have any subscriber base, or maybe are still trying to get your channel started, from my point of view, when I see down numbers, I see that there's an issue. The problem that I'm seeing with this is we're having problems in getting traction and finding new viewers. And when I first started this channel back in 2021, my main goal was to start Pokemon What Ifs, as the channel advertises in all of its statements and everything that you see plastered across the channel because I figured it was a good market to get into, and I figured that because nobody else was really doing it at the time, it could be something that I wouldn't really have to force into, like if I was doing a Dragon Ball what if or a Naruto what if or something like that. So it would be easier for me to carve out my niche. And while that did happen within the first year to 2 years, there was a lot of outside influence happening with that and really driving that home. Unfortunately, we're now seeing the downside to that in such rapid growth such early on, and you can see it here with the numbers. Within the last couple of months, and starting really at the beginning of summer, I started out putting 2 videos a week to try and bring my numbers back to what they were. The issue with that is I was producing double the content to get the same result as I was for getting only half the content from before. So that really didn't solve the problem. It only put a band-aid on the situation until things started to go south again, because at the time of the numbers that you're looking at this video, I was producing 2 videos a week, and as you can see, the numbers are still trending downwards, which is a huge red flag for me. And it's something that I gotta figure out, what is the true reason why? Is it because the subject matter of my channel has gone stale? Is it because that the niche that we're in really isn't as popular as I had hoped it to be? Is it because the whole fad of Pokemon what ifs on YouTube has finally reached its pinnacle and there's not really any more room for growth? These are all questions I don't really know the answer to, and unfortunately, until I can kind of figure out those answers, I'm afraid that we're going to continue to see a downward trend, which is something I don't want to have, especially when I put so much time and energy into trying to maintain and grow the channel. This is where we need the help of you guys, the ones that are truly loyal to the channel, the ones that tune in every Tuesday, every Saturday to make sure that they see any type of content that I put out, the ones who view every short, the ones who always drop a like, but the ones mainly who are continuously here to view. I need your guys' help to help drive the algorithm. I need likes, I need comments, I need shares. In order for the channel to continue to grow sustainably, I need engagement from the audience, and unfortunately the algorithm just isn't favoring the channel like it used to. And when that happens, channels tend to fall into obscurity and it's hard for them to grow, which I've seen over the last year. The first 2 years of YouTube, I experienced the highs with the amount of growth that I've had. Now I'm starting to experience the lowest of the lows when you hit a slump, and you got to take a really hard look at what's going on to see if it's something that you can control or not. So any one of you that enjoys my videos, please drop a like and drop a comment. Help get the video as high as it can on the YouTube suggestions, because unfortunately they're just not doing as well. We're only getting about a quarter of my subscriber count for most videos, and that's not even including the topics that I enjoy but are not that popular with my audience. So any type of engagement that you guys can give for whatever video I put out would be greatly appreciated, and it's going to help the channel grow to a much larger audience, and it's going to help us get to a point to where we can start seeing positive numbers again, which is something we want. Now I want to talk about a subject that most people don't usually talk about on their channels. Some people do, but in my space particularly, I don't really see anybody talking in depth about it. But the topic I want to talk to you about right now is the ad revenue that YouTube actually pays its creators when they finally are able to get monetized. And this is going to be a double-edged sword when you actually look at some of my numbers. Now, I'm not going to show you everything, and the reason for it is because there's names for people and there's private information that I don't think I should be sharing with everybody. But there are things that I do want you guys to be able to see from the channel. That way you can get an understanding of why certain things are so important when it comes to certain aspects of the channel. We're going to start off with just the basic ad revenue that I earned in the month of September. All right, now if you look to my left right here, or your right, you're going to see a box appear on the screen. And this is going to have 3 different categories in it. It's going to have membership, it's going to have shorts, and then it's going to have watch page ads. This is a simplified version of the actual numbers that I get on a monthly basis. Now, as you can see right here, the watch page ads are basically what you get paid from the ads that appear on your videos. And when you guys watch the ads, that's how I make my money off of YouTube, just from the ads themselves. Now, if you notice one thing, the number right below it is the shorts line. Shorts pay basically nothing to creators. While they're great for engagement and trying to get to a new audience and stuff like that and tackling small subjects, they really don't do much in the long run unless they're getting like 500,000 views or something. And as you can see from the current subscriber count on my channel, that's just not happening. But the one thing that I do want to talk to you guys about on this line is going to be the channel memberships. As you can see, channel memberships are far larger than what the YouTube ad revenue is. And there's a reason why channel memberships are so important to content creators. The reason for it is because the YouTube algorithm and the YouTube ad revenue system only favors content creators that have massive followings. We're talking 100, 200, 300,000 subscribers plus. Those are how you make decent money off of the YouTube ad revenue system, or unless your views are getting a couple 100,000. I just as of last month barely hit my first video with 100,000 views, and it took 2 years to get there. That right there should kind of give you an idea of how much money that I've actually made. So now that we're talking about a video that has 100,000 plus views, let's take a look at what it earned over the course of its lifetime. Now keep in mind, this isn't 1 month. This is the whole 2 years since I published this video. Now, as you can see right here, the video itself over the course of a 2-year period has earned just over $650. It took 2 years to get to 100,000 views, and in the course of that time, it's only earned that much. That's why channel memberships are so important to small creators, especially small creators like myself, Fickle Dill, Plus Ultraman, stuff like that. Those things help fund side projects like art, paying other type of things like we need for creators, voice actors, stuff like that. That extra money that is donated by the people who want to support us are the reason why we're able to do things like that, or provide OCs that don't look like they were shoddily made in Photoshop, or create custom Pokemon like I did in What If Ash Was Born in Unova, or What If Ash Was Born in Kalos, or the What If Ash and Paul Travel to Kalos. Those things were all paid for by the people who donated it on Patreon and through the YouTube channel members system. So thank you very much for all the people that have continued to support me over the last 2 years, and anyone who continues to support me going into the future. They're the reasons why we're able to do things like that. And that's going to lead me into my next topic of why do I keep putting specific things exclusively for channel members and patrons? And the answer is something that I just said. It's because they go the extra mile to support us as content creators. So we want to offer them something that only they can view. Think about it. If you spend your money on something, you want to make sure that you're going to get your money's worth. And yeah, donating to somebody out of the kindness of your heart is, always a nice thing. But wouldn't it be nice if you got something in return and it was acknowledged on more than just a one-time basis? That's something that I've done with my 2 current series that I have running exclusively on those 2 platforms, with What If I Wrote the Pokemon Anime and What If Ash Won the Hoenn League. Those are things for those people who choose to donate continuously. They're the ones that allow us to actually be profitable on the platform, considering that the YouTube ad revenue numbers are essentially bullshit. And we want to make sure that we can continue to at least grow on the platform and provide more in-depth stories, better looking visuals on the screen. So those extra things that we get from our fans that can donate a little bit more, not saying everybody needs to, but that can, are the things that really make us engaged in trying to bring you better content and better visuals and a more extensive overall story. That's the reason why those things exist. They're to offset the lack of funds from, well, the place that we should be getting paid from. It's really disheartening when you think about how much time goes into a video. You have the idea phase that you have to go through. You have the scripting phase that you have to go through. Then you have the recording phase. And then let's not even talk about the editing phase. Some content creators, they put massive amount of time into visuals, which means more money because you have to conscript artists to get that stuff done. And then let's not forget sound effects that you may have to find. Maybe if you have an editor that can work with you, you have to pay them as well. So now you're paying for 2 people, not just yourself, and it's because you want to make sure the content is good. All that stuff comes back to the funds that we can provide. And while I do have a job in my personal life, I don't want to have to always allocate the funds from my primary mode of employment to fund what is essentially just a hobby. If I can make the hobby itself pay for itself, then I want to do that, because then I can turn this into something more than just a hobby. I can turn it into a business that I actually enjoy doing, which is what I've been trying to do over the last 2 years. That's why it's really important to have patrons and channel members, and for us to reward them with exclusive content, so that way we can make sure that they know that we acknowledge their extra contributions and they don't feel like we're ungrateful for all the stuff that they put in. Now, while Patreon isn't directly linked to YouTube, it is just as important, and the reason for it is because it offers another way for people to donate to that isn't directly connected to YouTube, but it also allows us another source of income to try and get things going for the channel, which from the perspective of a content creator is always something you want. You want to have as many sources of income coming in as possible, so that way you can experience as much growth as possible. But I think I've harped enough on this subject alone. Let's move on to the next topic, and that's going to be channel ideas for the foreseeable future. As you guys have known, over the last couple of months, I've been trying to finish off a lot of the stories that I've had on the channel. What If Ash Was Born in Unova? What If Ash and Paul Travel traveled to Unova? What if Ash was born in Kalos? What if Indigo Champion Ash challenged the Johto League? These are all stories that I had sitting around on the channel for a prolonged period of time. We're talking over a year, 2 years. And unfortunately, for the type of growth that I want for the channel, I need to pump out content a little bit faster. So I increased the upload schedule to include 2 videos a week, so that way we can start closing out some of those ideas. But now we're getting to the point where we're almost done with all of the old ideas. And that's where I'm going to leave it to you guys. I'm going to start hosting a live stream probably once a month or so, and maybe get your guys' input on ideas that you may like to see, and we can possibly get them rolling on the channel. This will give us a chance to get you guys more interactive and allow you to see possibly your ideas come to fruition. Maybe get a couple of collabs going out of it. That's going to be probably after the first of the year, so that way I can wrap up anything that I have hanging loose end for the rest of this year. Now, this is a section that I do think I need to talk about, even though it's going to be short and it's going to be brief, and it's going to be about the honest truth of the channel. I have to acknowledge the fact that my channel experienced so much rapid growth in the first 2 years because of a huge outside influence. That outside influence is my one and good YouTube friend plus Ultraman. He really backed me in a lot of the content that I was making, and he really pushed me in the first 2 years that I was making content. I experienced growth on the channel and as a creator that I didn't think was possible. I've changed so many things about my style of doing things. I've developed better writing skills by working with him, better editing techniques. I've pushed myself to grow versus the videos that you saw when my channel first started to now. A lot of it has to do with him. More importantly, a lot of it has to do with the collab that I do with him. What if Giovanni sponsored Ash? While that story and that series is great, my roots will always be tied to it. The fact of the matter is, a lot of that massively expansive growth was tied to that series. Because of it was tied to that series, it was also tied to Plus Ultra. When you first look at it, is a good thing, but now it's come to the point to where that series, for me personally, for the time being, is over, which means now I have to find my own 2 legs to stand on. I no longer have his outside influence to help me grow, and those videos that are going to do very well because his name is attached to him to help me grow, which means that I gotta start figuring things out for myself now, which is part of the issue that I've been dealing with, and it's gonna be something that is gonna be a learning experience for myself. But I have to acknowledge that he had a huge hand in everything, and I just want to say thank you to him for everything that he's done for me and all of the other creators that have been in our group, because if he wouldn't have gotten involved with us, we probably may not be at the level that we're at today. And he's what I'd say is the godfather of where we're currently at because of his experience and his willingness to take a chance on certain creators that had no experience, no knowledge, no following whatsoever. So if you guys are exclusively subscribed to my channel, I highly suggest you go over and check his channel out. He does quality content all the time. He won't put anything out unless he is happy with it. He really does put his heart and soul into everything, which is something you have to have as a creator. You have to be happy with things if you publish it. Otherwise, you're just going to get in the normal rat race of the 9 to 5, and then it turns into something you're doing because you have to, not because you want to. And he really holds himself to that higher standard, and it's really admirable from somebody who's as young as he is to have that quality. So I highly suggest, if you're only subscribed to me, please go subscribe to him. Make sure that you watch his videos, drop a like, drop a comment, all that stuff, because he deserves it. So the question is, what do I want to do with the channel? Well, I continuously want the channel to grow, and one of the things that I've been debating on is, how do I get the channel to grow? I feel like, though I'm exclusively a Pokemon channel currently, my growth isn't going to come from being just a Pokemon channel that does what ifs. And what I mean by that is I have 2 options. I either continue to do Pokemon content that's not tied exclusively to just what ifs, and I expand my horizons to do other things, discussion videos, and maybe top 10s like Mystic Umbreon does, or Nuzlocke like Silspectre does, stuff like that. Or I expand the horizons of the actual content that is on the channel and the subject matter, which means I no longer just talk about Pokemon. I do what if scenarios on some of my favorite other content, which would mean a channel rebranding, changing some things up, and getting some new types of contents that has nothing to do with Pokemon out there. So there's definitely options for room to grow. I just have to decide on what's going to be best for me as a creator, which is what's going to keep me interested. That's the main thing. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. These are all just things that I've been dealing with, and I've been trying to find the correct path going forward. But I think we might be there soon. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, now that we've gotten through all of the pain of the channel, let's have a little bit of pleasure answering some questions that you guys dropped. Now, about a month ago, I dropped a post on the community tab, which is very important that you guys pay attention to, because I often post things there that are going to give you insights on what's coming up for the channel. And I said in this post, if you guys have a question that is directly inquiring about the channel, post it here here because this is the only place I'm going to be pulling from. So I got 22 questions I'm going to try and go through, and if I feel like I haven't answered them, then I'm going to answer them right now, and I'm going to try to be as quick and direct with it so that way we can keep this video as short as possible. All right, so the first one is from the Godfather himself, plus Ultraman. His question is a simple one, and he wants to know, aside from GSA related stuff, is there going to be any collabs that I'm going to be doing in the future? Which I do currently have one in the works with a certain other creator known as Pickle Dill. He is one of the other members of the GSA universe, and me and him have a what if that's going to be coming out for the month of October, and it's going to be going live the day after this post goes live, 10 a.m. It's going to be a 4-part Halloween special, so you guys aren't going to want to miss that. And of course, the only way you're going to know that it's happening is if you watch this video. So the next question comes from Feedback0122. He has a couple of questions. The first question he has is, how involved will I be within GSA? I know there are still things on with the series of May and Max and the Gold and Silver arc, but will you still be working on things behind the scenes? And if so, how much involvement will you have in creating the upcoming parts? So when it comes to the individual parts, I will provide whatever support is needed if they need script writing or if they needed renders found or maybe recording lines or anything like that. But when it comes to the individual, I'd say, sections of the universe, May, Max, Gold, Silver, so on and so forth, we're really leaving those to the 2 creators that are in charge of creating it at that time. And if they need any support, then we will provide it. That's how that kind of works out. We will promote it in any way that we can, get it out to our audiences so that way we can get as much views on it as possible. We really want to make sure that anybody involved with the GSA product is able to grow at any point and capture as many views, subscribers, so on, stuff like that. So to answer your question directly, I will be involved, but it's going to be mostly behind the scenes unless otherwise needed. Do I have any idea of when non-channel members will be able to see things such as what if I wrote the Pokemon anime or what if Ash won the Hoenn League? The reason why these are exclusively on those is because, again, we want to provide them with content that they can't get anywhere else because they're providing money. But you guys will get a chance to see those when I finish those. When I'm done with those there, then they will start making their way onto actual YouTube. I don't think that it's fair that you guys would get a chance to see it before they're done with it. That's how I look at it. So I want to keep it exclusively on there until the season is done, and then I'll start trickling it out to YouTube. What are the what if series am I planning? I have a couple that I'm thinking about. I have a continuation or 2 that I'm thinking about doing, and I also have a couple of new ideas that I want to test out, maybe as one-shots or something like that, but we'll get into that a little bit later. I don't want to spoil too much of that. What is my favorite what if that I wrote or created? Personally, non-collab related, my personal what if that I've created is what if Ash won the Sinnoh League, and the reason for it is that story specifically, from start to finish, you can see my evolution as a creator. And what I mean by that is I had this transition period where I was just following the anime and changing things slightly so it would be different, to creating a full-on story that had weights and stuff like that, as you can see when Ash got to the Battle Frontier arc of that particular what if. So you can see from pre-Battle Frontier, it's kind of just me following the anime, changing things that would be better but not really changing things, to creating a full-on story, making a full-on change from Battle Frontier on. So that's my favorite one that I've created because you can really see the evolution of myself as a writer in that episode. Thanks for all the content you made over the past 2 years. I've been watching since What If Ash won the Indigo League, and you definitely improved a lot. Love a lot of the episodes you've pumped out, and thank you for all the work you've put in on the channel. You will deserve more attention and credit. Appreciate it. Terry B01. Outside of popular picks, what's one Pokemon breed you really want to give Ash in a what if? Like if he started with a different Pokemon or was in another region? This is something I really can't answer right now. What I can tell you is I do like to give him things that I've used in the games when I've done replaythroughs of certain things. Whenever I do a playthrough of a game, I have a rule that once I go through, I always try to use something that I never used on a previous playthrough. So if you see a specific team that in one of the what ifs that Ash has had, it's because of one of 2 reasons. The first one is because in that generation he may not have had that typing, like in the What If Ash 1 series, any one of them. So I may be trying to compensate for a lack of coverage on a team. Or 2, because like the What If Ash Was Born series, that's a good one to really gauge this question off. In that series, I give him a lot of Pokemon playthrough on games with, but they don't really get a lot of shine. Like prime example, Slugma. I don't really like Macargo, but I played through a game with Slugma on my team when I was younger, and I really enjoyed just having Slugma as a Pokemon. So that's why he got it in What If Ash Was Born in Kalos, is because I played through with it and I really liked it. This is from Samara Carnatia 6997. What is the toughest part of a what if for me to write? For growing as a writer, the toughest part for me was actually developing a storyline that was interesting while using the same source material, changing it in a significant way to where people would want to watch. That's why I'm a big fan of including the movies into my what ifs, because including the movies gives you a chance for a completely different outlook on things, and it opens up so many things. So one of the stories that I'm most proud of because of the amount of detail that I did with it was what if Ash was born in Unova. That was my first story on the channel, and even though it does kind of hold up now, the reason why I'm so proud of it is because I spent months thinking about that story from start to finish. What Pokemon I was going to give Ash, how I was going to roll everything out, and things like that. More time than I spent in any other what if. I spent a year trying to prep for the channel before I actually went live with anything, and that includes that story. So I actually had the first 13 parts written out before I even made my first video. Creating a story that is most compelling is the toughest part for me, because I had a hard time deviating from the anime. I was afraid that if you deviated too much from the source material, people wouldn't want to watch, and in reality that's not the case. People want different. So that's why they're there. Will you be continuing What If Ash won the Indigo League to hone, and also been a long-time supporter? Just curious what your big aspirations for the rest of 2023 and 2024 is. This comes from Robert Coogan 5595. Indigo Champion Ash is going to get a continuation. I'm not going to talk about where or how or what it's involved with, but it will get a continuation after Johto. But as far as aspirations, I've already talked about that in the earlier part of this video, so we're not going to spend too much time on that. Any thoughts on visiting Galar or Paldea? Galar is open now. The games have been out. The anime is currently over, so we have most of the information we could potentially have on it. The What If Ash won the Pokemon World Tournament is the best place to view anything that I would have to talk about Galar for the time being, because it's a Pokemon Journeys rewrite, which means that I'm trying to expand on Galar unlike what they did in the anime. And then as far as Paldea is concerned, we don't have all of the information on Paldea at this current time. What I mean by that is DLCs, anime stuff, so on and so forth. So you really want to have all of the information, so that way you don't have to go back and try and retcon things retroactively as new information comes out. So I really want Paldea to have some time to sit before I even consider touching it. My question is, why is the GSA universe connected or an ongoing series? Listen, the GSA universe is a very simple concept, and I do believe there is one person better than me that can explain that. So here it is.
There was an idea. The idea was to bring together a group of remarkable people, see if they could become something more. See if they could work together when we needed them to fight the battles that we never could.
Is there going to be a what if Paul and Ash travel to Kalos? From Richmond Bell 5658. I take it that might be your favorite what if. I will say that I do have a concept for a continuation to that series. I don't know if it's going to be exactly that, but it's always possible. Will there be any Yu-Gi-Oh what ifs alongside Pokemon on here? That goes back to what I said about, do I continue to do just Pokemon what ifs, or do I expand the channel to include other subject matter? Yu-Gi-Oh would probably be the first topic I cover if I expand other what if matter. Will there be any new what ifs starting next month? So currently I have what if Brock took the gym challenge. I'm going to be focused on getting that series done so that way I can clear it off, because that's the last major one that's been sitting around for a long time, and I want to clear that out, so I want to have that done by the end of the year. Technostricity 420. When is GSA Season 3? GSA Season 3 is going to be the Gold and Silver arc. That's going to be with Electro Pikachu and the Story Buster. We don't have a set date for that right now, but we do plan to put out more May and Max and give them time to get acclimated to the GSA universe before we start moving on. You guys will start seeing all types of promotions for it once we get closer to the actual due date. From Mew Mew Power Girl. Ronan, would you ever do Paul what if, and do you think about having Paul win the Unova League? It's always possible to tell other stories with other characters that could win certain leagues. I will say that it seems that the most interesting character for most people is Ash, and they don't really care about side characters as much like other animes. Primary example would be Dragon Ball, for instance. Goku is the main character, but there are a lot of Vegeta fans out there. There are a lot of Gohan fans out there. So like what ifs on other characters that aren't the main character usually do well. In my experience, the Pokemon what ifs that don't have Ash as part of them seem like they don't do that well. I could be wrong on that. I haven't really tested it extensively. My knowledge is coming solely from Ash and Paul and Unova. And the reason for that is because when I was going through a certain part of that what if, there was a lot of people that wanted to see more of Ash than Paul, and that was always supposed to be more of a Paul what if. Anyway, the video has gone on long enough. I want to thank you guys all for watching, and of course, if you guys learned anything from this video or you feel like there's something that I didn't touch on, please comment down below and I'll do my best to try and answer, you know, when I can. I really appreciate your time, and as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next video.